much known better for their football, have always, for whatever reason, gotten after each other on the hardwood, especially when they have two good basketball teams. Clemson, again, in my mind, defensively, they have to play a smart game, and they have to stroke it from outside, because if you get Florida State's big men start to get eager to block shots, they tend to play better offensively. So this is a key game for Clemson tonight. And what better opponent than to play against a Florida State team that's going to challenge you inside, because the Tigers are going to have to score some inside to win in the ACC tournament. So but might as well make it tough tonight against the Seminoles.
Well, Florida State's a dangerous team. They already have 4 wins over ranked teams this year, including one against Clemson a couple of weeks ago. That was, of course, a down-to-the-wire finish. I think it was in overtime in Tallahassee. So I expect we're going to have a very close game here tonight at Little John, tipping off a little bit after 9 o'clock. In Columbia, over the Colonial Life Arena, it's South Carolina and LSU tonight as the Gamecocks hold senior night festivities for the 2 graduate transfer seniors that they have, or they're not really, I guess, just grad transfers, not seniors, but the 2 guys who'll be departing the program. Will Pelagic is over at the CLA preparing to take that game in beginning at the 6:30 tonight. So let's go to him and get the feeling for what things are like over there. Will.
Good evening, Corn, and welcome to Colonial Life Arena. Very much like last week, it's going to be a late arriving crowd because of the 6:30 tip, and understandable because of the way that this is scheduled. But as we speak right now, they are getting ready to honor both Wesley Myers and Frank Booker on the floor, along with 2 senior managers and a student assistant coach, Tamarcus Flint. And the Tigers, or the Gamecocks, getting themselves ready to take on the Tigers of LSU in their lone matchup of the season with the Bayou Bengals, who come in at 16 up and 12 down, 7-9 in the NCC. It's a group that struggled on the road, has yet to get a road victory in the month of February. Their last road victory coming January 10th at Arkansas. They did win back-to-back games over Missouri and Vanderbilt before losing 93-82 last time out at Georgia last Saturday. It's a group that will bring about a lot of length, like teams that they've seen over the course of this season. This is something that's kind of been a bugaboo for South Carolina when dealing with the blocked shots. They're 351st in the country in terms of blocked shot percentage when they have the basketball. Duop Reese and Aaron Epps will be certainly 2 big guys that they look for in that regard. A 6'11" guy out of Perth and a 6'10" guy out of Louisiana. Skylar Mays and Tremont Waters in the backcourt kind of are the all-everything for LSU on offense. This should be a game that South Carolina is looking at trying to get momentum, though, Pro, because of the fact that when you look at South Carolina, they have the pieces to be able to make a run in St. Louis, but they need forward momentum and they need kind of the snowball going down the mountain to try and make that happen.
They played a tough game, I would say, mentally against Mississippi State, but they turned the basketball over too much, because that's Mississippi State is a tough team to play down in Starkville, and they had their chances in that ball game, especially forcing overtime. But the key tonight to me is rebounding. I think LSU is near the bottom or at the bottom of the SEC in offensive rebounding. That means South Carolina has to get that defensive board, kick it out, and do some running tonight if at all possible against this LSU team.
All right, Will, thank you. We'll hear back from you at halftime. South Carolina and LSU going to tip it off at 6:30. Some familiarity in that LSU program to the state of South Carolina. Of course, the head coach is Will Wade, who's a Clemson graduate, and also a former graduate assistant coach on the Clemson staff under Larry Shyatt and Oliver Purnell. And the play-by-play announcer for LSU is Chris Blair, who is – I'm not sure if he's a native of South Carolina, if this is where he grew up, but we knew Chris from his days when he worked in Greenwood. And so he has got ties to the state of South Carolina as well. Do you remember Chris when he was calling things in Greenwood, Pro?
I do not.
Yeah, he's done quite well for himself, and he replaced a legend at LSU in, I think it was Jim Hawthorne, who was the play-by-play announcer there for many, many years, and he took over that job, and he's done very well for the Tigers. So that one will tip off tonight at 6:30. Other games tonight in the ACC, Pittsburgh at Notre Dame, and Notre Dame now getting healthy. right? Since they got their star player coming back, and could make them a factor in the ACC tournament. Syracuse playing at Boston College tonight. Clemson goes up to Syracuse, of course, to finish out the regular season on Saturday. Around the SEC tonight, it's Ole Miss at Kentucky. That's going to be at 7, and Texas A&M plays tonight at Georgia. We will continue with more sports talk here in just a moment. Going to hear from Dabo Swinney, get his initial thoughts on the first spring practice for the Tigers. That's coming up.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk up at Clemson and in Columbia. I'm going to try it one more time. I'm so mad at myself for blowing the opening. So, the biggest thing I saw today was Jackson Carman. This guy is just huge, pro. You look at his legs, and he's got a tibia, a fibula, and also a tribula. His legs are so big. He's got 3 bones in there. Huh?
I think you've already broken your leg.
I just wanted to get it right and pay homage to. I mean, I'm telling you, I was standing there, and the players are walking past us single file for the most part to go from the weight room into the infield indoor practice facility, and he comes walking by, and I mean, you just do a double take. This guy's just massive. Now he's got to get some muscle on him and trim up some things, but you look at his lower body, he's just a huge man, Watch Trevor Lawrence a good bit, throwing the football around, of course, and he's where he should be on the first day of spring practice, and that's number 4. The quarterbacks, when they were doing calisthenics and doing some of their preliminary drills, they lined up in order of don't want to say importance, but I guess seniority, with Kelly Bryant being first, Hunter Johnson was second, Chase Bryce was third, and Trevor Lawrence was fourth. And that's how they went about doing things. By the way, Dexter Lawrence will be one of the players not participating in the spring practice drills. Of course, they know what he can do, but they want to give his foot and his ankle more time to heal up, because he had, of course, some issues with that last season. In fact, let's let you hear from Sweeney. We'll hear from him a couple of times tonight, and we begin with just sort of his overall general thoughts about beginning the spring with this team, and also, of course, trying to work in some of this young talent, some of this highly acclaimed talent that he has brought into the program.
I think you can coach them hard right out of the gate because they know. I mean, they know what it takes. They know what to expect. So I think you can really, as a coach, that's fun. I mean, you're just, like I said, you're starting a lot of these guys is just at a different space, a different spot. But at the same time, you got other guys, you literally have to go right where they are and bring them along. And I think one of the best things that is woven into the culture of our program, probably one of the reasons we've been so consistent, is just the pride that our veterans take in nurturing the young guys. I think we got a lot of guys that are at that point. We got a bunch of guys too that are just learning what to do.
That's the talent in the quarterback room and the opportunities that Trevor's going to have specifically.
Same opportunity everybody else has. Come to practice, put in the work. Everything counts. Best guy plays. Just get in line and go to work. That's it. They all got the same opportunity. I think we got 4 special players, 4 talented guys. We got a quarterback who's led us to this time last year. I mean, what did he play? 80 snaps maybe in his career. 100. There you go. And he took us. We didn't luck up winning the ACC. I mean, we did a lot. We beat some good teams, and he was a big part of it. So you got a proven guy that's led your team to a playoff. 3rd year in a row. He's led your team to an ACC championship. He's an unbelievable leader. He's just a great young man and very committed. So you got that guy who if he's the best guy, it ought to be obvious. I mean, that's where we are. That's where you start day one. And you got another guy in Hunter Johnson that really came on, mentally. Took him a little while to really get the mental part caught up with the physical part. Very gifted, talented young player that's incredibly committed, focused. Same thing, excellent leader. Just who's made big strides. So you got him, I think, and then you got Chase Bryce, who's he's just kind of a gunslinger, man. I mean, he's a winner. Incredible job on the scout team last year. He's tough. He's savvy. He's got excellent arm, great instincts for the game. Again, he's been a big time winner his whole life. And then you got Trevor, who just showed up, who's obviously got every tool you could possibly want in a quarterback. Got unbelievable arm talent, size, can run. He's had great experience. He's an awesome winner. So that's what we got. So we're going to choose from the best of the best And as a coach, that beats choosing from the best of the bad any day of the week. So it is what it is. We've got a lot of great competition, and they're going to make each other better. But somebody's got to run out there first. And, we got a starting point, and it's Kelly's job to continue to be the best guy every day, just like it's Mitch Hyatt's job to prove he's the best left tackle.
All right, some of Dabo Swinney's opening comments about the start of spring practice here at Clemson and the fact that he's got a lot of very young players who come in highly acclaimed, but he's got some established veterans as well, some of whom I don't think he expected to have when this spring practice rolled around, to be quite honest with you. I think when they were doing their recruiting and going after some players last year, they kind of thought that or last recruiting season, they kind of thought like they wouldn't have a Christian Wilkins or Cleveland Farrell or Bryant back, but all those guys decided to return pro, and that gives them some unbelievable veteran leadership on the defensive side. I mean, you just look at this team and you look at the schedule that will be in front of them, and you can't fathom a way in which they won't be in the playoffs again in 2018. They just look that good.
Yeah, a lot of the football teams, including you can think off the top of your head that NC State, you would figure they're going to take a step back because of their defensive lineman. They're great defensive lineman. He's in the draft. Maybe some people say he's one of the top 5 picks in the draft. So this is a key moment for Clemson, and this is where they're going to a lot of self-motivation is going to have to come into play for the Tigers, because you can almost see with the talent they have, they're going to have a few laughers as far as that's concerned. But I would think that Dabo Swinney would like that, because this is a good time for Clemson not only to take advantage of these veterans, coming back, but also to ease these young players into playing major college football, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah. I mean, just because you got a boatload of talent, I mean, it's still a whole nother speed of football, and there's so much to learn. And it's unfair. I was talking to some media guys up here who are around the program, and they see the fans and hear from the fans, and the fans are like, well, when do you think Trevor Lawrence is going to be starting at quarterback? Do you think it'll be by the Texas A&M game? And that's very popular subject up here, of course, and all around the state for Clemson fans. And you know what? There's no reason to rush it. You've got a proven winning quarterback in Kelly Bryant, and, I don't think it's fair to hold the Alabama loss against Kelly Bryant. He didn't have his best game, but really nobody on the Clemson offense had a great game. He was the victim of some drop passes by usually sure-handed receivers that hurt the Tigers from time to time in that game. You can't pin that loss solely on Kelly Bryant and say, okay, it's time for a change at quarterback. You got a guy who led you to the national semifinals, led you to an ACC championship. And if Kelly Bryant improves as much in 2018 as he improved in 2017 from where he was in 2016, then he's just going to be a terrific quarterback in his own way. His running threat, his arm threat, all that together make him a very dangerous quarterback in Clemson's offense. And, the thing with Deshaun Watson, everybody thinks about that. And Cole Stout was a starting quarterback ahead of Deshaun Watson. And I think we just all knew it was a matter of time before he would overtake Cole Stout and become the starting quarterback for Clemson. And they made that transition with relative ease. It's a different situation here because you've got a much better quarterback and a winning quarterback already in place, and now you're thinking about this freshman leapfrogging not only him, but you're also talking about leapfrogging 2 other highly acclaimed quarterbacks in Hunter Johnson and Chase Bryce. So some people are going to have to take some patient pills here, I think, Pro, and just let this thing work its way out naturally, and the best guy will run the team.
And yeah, I think your veteran is going to run the team, because you don't want to risk playing the other guy and then having a split locker room, because that often happens when coaches try to juggle and keep 2 quarterbacks happy.
Wednesday night edition of Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from Columbia. That is where Professor Tom Hayes is located, along with Will Pelagic, who's over at USC at the Colonial Life Arena for the Gamecocks and LSU. They've just tipped off. LSU off to a 2-0 lead. I'm up here at Clemson for the Tigers game tonight with Florida State, and also got a chance to stick my head into the practice arena at Clemson for a little bit to watch the Tigers run around here at the opening of spring football practice for them. By the way, USC off to an 0-for-6 start from the floor. This is despite what Frank Martin has said from the get-go. He expected this to be maybe his best shooting team at South Carolina. Yeah, they got some guys that can knock down some threes, but in terms of just consistently shooting the basketball, it's been one of his worst. I mean, the numbers don't lie. As a team going into this game tonight, and the Gamecocks have been hovering all season long as a team in that 40% area or less, and that's where they still are at this particular time, and off to a very shaky start shooting the basketball tonight thus far. But it is early. Reminder, we've got the big baseball series coming up this weekend between South Carolina and Clemson. We'll have some comments from Monty Lee for you that he made about South Carolina and preparing for that showdown. He made those comments after the Tigers win last night over Winthrop. Mark Kingston will meet with the media tomorrow to preview the game with Clemson, the series with Clemson, and obviously not a very happy time for him with back-to-back losses. And I know that today, I don't know if the rain allowed them to get out on the field very much at all. Clemson did not practice today. I did hear some people over in the batting cage, but I have a bona fide practice today. So they'll get back at it tomorrow, and they'll play the first game on Friday in Columbia before moving up to Greenville for the second game, then over here at Clemson for the wrap-up on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, going into this game today, South Carolina as a team shooting .396, under 40%, and from three, shooting .323. That's terrible. Now, Booker is shooting 38.5% from three, and Silva, who's only taken 12 three-pointers all season, he's shooting 41%. And it goes basically down from there. Wesley Myers is shooting 41% from three, but he's only taken 58 shots. So it just has not been a good shooting team for South Carolina all season long. But now they are on top of LSU. They've scored 4 points. They're up 4-2 early in the game over the Colonial Life Arena. Let's jump to Glenn on the phones here very quickly in North Charleston, and then we're going to hear from USC's offensive coordinator, Brian McClendon. Glenn, what's on your mind today?
I think that South Carolina will come back and they'll be okay and win the game, because they had a game not too long ago. They was falling behind, and then they have a way of coming back when they need to and win. So I think they'll be all right. They'll be winning, and I think South Carolina's got Clemson this weekend on baseball, right?
They do.
And I think they'll be all right, too. I think they'll come back, because I think overconfidence is a bad thing in some ways, because when teams get overconfident, then that's when they get cold and, lose games. You've probably seen a lot of that where they gain confidence and the other team wins, and then they'll start winning, and they'll lose confidence, and it goes back and forth.
Okay, do not disagree with that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Glenn. Good hearing from you. We appreciate it. 800-956-7266 is our phone number here on Sports Talk if you want to jump in with a comment or a question. USC also began spring practice today. Of course, we heard extensively from Will Muschamp on the show yesterday. What the Gamecocks are going to be doing throughout spring practice is bringing one assistant coach to meet with the media after most of the spring practices, and then on some off days, they'll make some players available. So today it was the new offensive coordinator, Brian McClendon, who had a chance to meet with the media and talk about his view of spring practice from an offensive standpoint. and what he has to work with his first go around as the man in charge of the offense?
I thought the throw game was pretty good. I think we ended up being like middle of the pack in the conference and everything like that as far as passing the ball. That's what I mean by throw game. I'm sorry. And so, a lot of the stuff concept wise, I thought quarterbacks and everybody kind of knew a bunch of stuff right there, knew what to do and kind of what we were trying to get done in that aspect. But and then there were some different things in the run game that I thought we did well too. You know what I mean? Obviously everything could need tweaks, and even the stuff that we do now, I'm sure is going to need some too. So, just really trying to find out exactly what we can do well with this group, because I think each new year, you got a brand new team, you got new pieces, and you got players that that have gotten better from last year, but you get some healthy guys back, and you got to kind of work it all in. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just fitting all the pieces in the right place.
How much of an advantage is it to have a bunch of guys coming back that played a lot of significant snaps?
I think the biggest thing that helps people, that helps players, period, is game experience. You know what I mean? So I think that's invaluable, period. So, just regardless of the system and regardless of kind of what you're keeping and what you're changing, players that know what it takes in order to go out there and play well on Saturdays is the big, it helps, just because they know how what it takes to prepare to get to that point. And so those guys, being able to come out here and being able to kind of pay attention to exactly how you want things done, and asking the right questions on why you want it, why you may want it like this and things like that. That's the valuable stuff.
Ryan, you talked about some of the familiarity from last year to this year, but what's the biggest difference you think in your mind?
I think that, like I said, I think it's going to be a bunch of differences when it comes to different sets that we might be in, and or different things we might do, both passing the ball and running the ball. You know what I mean? But I think that changes from year to year anyway. Like I said, just because each team you get new pieces. So, just what we're going to ask certain guys to do might look a little bit different. Trying to, basically how we could try to scheme up things to get certain matchups at one position or another that might look a little bit different. So, just trying to put it all together. But right now everybody's excited, so we'll see how it all fits.
Brian, first spring practice for you as the offensive coordinator here. What's the biggest difference from last year at the same time?
Obviously, you're looking at a lot more, but. As far as team wise and goal wise and everything else, I think everybody's excited. Now, all first days are really, really similar. Guys are out there moving fast, not always in the right direction, but they're moving fast and they're trying hard, and just because everybody's kind of fresh and ready to go. And so, we're at the first install. So guys are trying to make sure that we get everything down as far as that goes. And so, it looked like a spring practice, but I have been really, really pleased with the guys being excited about what we're doing and going in there and kind of trying to get it right.
All right, there you go. South Carolina's Brian McClendon, the new offensive coordinator, getting no doubt a lot of help from Dan Werner, I'm sure, with Werner focusing on the quarterbacks, but also his expertise in developing an offense. He did a great job at Ole Miss in particular, and then he worked at Alabama with Nick Saban here of late. And certainly he is a guy that they should be very much in tune with, Pro, in using his concepts and his ideas and just his eye for talent and incorporating what he knows about a fast-paced RPO, which is what South Carolina wants to be. They want to be an offense where a quarterback can be a threat as a thrower and a runner. And we'll see how they do with Jake Bentley in particular, if they can make him into that full-time kind of threat.
And, the key point is learning how to absorb information and making it comfortable for you, because even a guy like Dan Werner explained when he came to South Carolina, he was a guy who coached in a pro offense at the University of Miami with those pro-style quarterbacks they had, and he had to learn the RPO on the fly when he came to Ole Miss and then absorb that into his concept. So I think the big key for him is to get Jake Bentley to relax. I thought in the second half of that Outback Bowl, Jake Bentley looked like a quarterback because he looked relaxed even in the moments where there were pressure. And that's the key to good quarterbacking, is to have the game slow down for you.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
15-9 USC on top of LSU. 11:40 to go in the first half. USC, after the slow start, has warmed up to 38%. LSU struggling from the field, shooting just 25%. USC 3 of 6 from 3, 2 of 2 from the line. Each team with just one turnover. LSU is winning on the boards 11-7. Leading USC so far is Myers with 8 points, including a couple of threes. And the Gamecocks have only one personal foul whistled against them thus far. So that's good news, a little over 8 minutes in. So 15-9 USC over LSU. The season's over for the Clemson women. They played in the ACC tournament today. And as they have done most of the season, they lost. They fell to Georgia Tech 61-52. So the Tigers conclude their season at 11-19. And former Clemson star Trevor Booker, who had been with the 76ers, that was his most recent stop. Reportedly, he's been waived and apparently is going to sign with the Indiana Pacers. Booker confirmed on Twitter that he was departing Philly and later added that looking forward to going to Indy, averaging about just under 7 points, just under 5 rebounds in 51 games this season. So he is on the move again. Southern Conference basketball honors came out today, and by the coaches, the player of the year is DeSanta Bradford of East Tennessee. His teammate Bo Hodges, a guard as well, is the freshman of the year. James Dickey from Greensboro, the defensive player of the year. The coach of the year is Greensboro's Wes Miller. On the first team, all-conference team by the coaches, Zane Nadawi of the Citadel, Devin Sibley of Furman, and Fletcher McGee of Wofford. McGee was named the player of the year in the conference by the league's coaches. Okay, that's what we got for you there. 800-956-7266, our number, if you would like to join in on the program tonight. Some recruiting now here on Sports Talk on this Wednesday night. We begin with defensive end Raymond Cutts of Orlando. Landed a Clemson offer last week, the same day as his teammate, defensive back Marcus Tillman. Cutts now has the Tigers in his top 3, and he hopes to be among those at the junior day on Saturday if he can get his transportation together for that. He's very excited to get the offer. Kind of knew it was coming because he'd been in regular contact with defensive line coach Todd Bates. Now, Cutts played linebacker last season. This season, he'll be a full-time defensive end. Last year, he had 96 tackles and 10 sacks. Louisville and South Florida, the other two high up on his list. He also has offers from Kentucky, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Cincinnati, and FAU. An update on USC quarterback target Garrett Schrader. He will be in Columbia Saturday to watch the Gamecocks practice, and he wants to see what McClendon and Werner have put together offensively, wants to see the new ideas and new concepts. He said that he's looking to see if they're more aggressive going down the field, a little bit more of a spread run game. He said that's what he expects to see. He's been talking regularly with Will Muschamp and Werner, and he said that they want him to commit, that they obviously consider him to be, I guess, their number one quarterback target. They'd like to have him in the fold. He says he's not going to do anything, however, for at least another month and a half, but he said USC will definitely be in his top group. He said that they told him whenever he's ready, they're ready for him to pull the trigger. He visited Mississippi State earlier this month. He was impressed by the new coach there, Joe Moorhead, and his new offense there and his approach to things. Said he's a very high energy guy. He will definitely visit West Virginia and Penn State and Florida. Those are all possibilities for visits. Not sure that he will need to take any official visits before making his decision. He is considering signing early and graduating early, but those decisions have not been finalized. There you go with recruiting for tonight. Remember to check it out regularly on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and on Twitter, use the hashtag STRecruiting. So we got so much to talk about, Pro. It's hard to focus in on any one thing. We've got spring football up and running at USC and Clemson. We've got the basketball games going on tonight. Of course, we've got the big baseball series coming up this weekend, beginning on Friday in Columbia. We'll hear some comments from Monty Lee following his team's win last night, talking about the matchup with the Gamecocks. We'll have that for you coming up a little bit later on. Plus, more from Clemson coach Dabo Sweeney on the Tigers' first day of spring practice. Right now, some of the Clemson players are meeting with the media. We can bring some of that to you beginning tomorrow night. But a lot of things happening, a lot of things to be excited about. It's always good to have football back in the conversation in a big way, whether it's spring football or fall football. But, you know, things that you do well in the fall, Pro, those things are learned here in the spring. It's basically a laboratory for the coaches. They get to do a lot of experimenting with position moves, and coaches also get to teach the players new ways of doing things. Maybe it's a new blocking technique, maybe a new way to run a route. It's your laboratory for education in football, and it's become, of course, very important for these teams, these 15 days they get in the spring.
And I think it's a good time for the guys who are older, the upperclassmen, to mentor some of these young guys as well. And people have to realize on any given play, a false step anywhere can either give you a touchdown or have you failed. And South Carolina missed out on that on a few plays, just as other teams do. Now, here's the question I have for fans as they look at spring practice and read some of the stories. Remember that it's not so important to get the right answers, is to ask the right questions, because you can get a lot of right answers to the wrong questions. We all know that the offense that Kurt Roper has worked other places. So it's not like, well, this guy's offense did work. Yes, it's worked at other places, but it didn't work here for whatever reason. And it could have been personality. Who knows? The other key is to ask yourself the question, all the delays at the line of scrimmage, do you think playing faster will negate the defense having time to read their keys? Sometimes the defense has failed, not so much that the play was run correctly, is they don't have time to run their keys because people line up at the line of scrimmage and run a play. And the defensive back may miss a key and leave Deebo Samuel wide open. It can happen. So as you look at this, don't always talk about this coach can't do this coach can't do that. Ask the right questions and maybe you'll get the right answers, because sometimes it's not always the offense. The defense, for a reason last year, really was bend but don't break. But those are opportunities when your offense wasn't on the field to gain a rhythm. So part of the offense's problem could have been defensively. Who knows? Mm-hmm. You got to ask yourself the right questions.
Well, that's true. And you're talking about South Carolina and you talk about Kurt Roper. And I mean, let's face it, for much of last year, he was having to run an offense with one hand tied behind his back. I mean, he was without Deebo Samuel. He was without Rico Dowdle. He was out without Casey Crosby. And they had, various and sundry other injuries to key personnel on the offensive side. Losing Deebo Samuel was a huge blow. There's no question about it, both on the offensive side and in the return game. And in the return game, what did he give you besides a couple of quick touchdowns there in the first 4 games? He also gave you better field position to work with. Not having Dowdle, you didn't have that explosive running back that he is coming out of the backfield. Not having Casey Crosby was another sure-handed receiver who could be flexed out at tight end and give you another opportunity there. So he didn't have everything at his fingertips that he would like to have had. And as somebody was telling me today, when you have a player like Deebo Samuel, you spend almost your entire offseason game planning ways to get him the football, which they did. And then you lose him, and it really guts your game plan. So not saying that Kurt Roper was not responsible as the offensive coordinator for an offense that averaged only 24 points per game, but you have to understand that he was handicapped because of those injuries. Top of the hour. We'll be back.